Welcome back, everyone. Let's talk about this Wikipedia article. It's called Ancient Towns in Saudi Arabia. It does not list Mecca. Mecca and Medina are suspiciously absent. Remember that Mecca is meant to be the oldest town in the world, the oldest city in the world. It was founded by Abraham. It was founded by Adam. It's the oldest city in the world, the mother of all cities. It says 13 ancient towns have been discovered in Saudi Arabia up to the present day, minus Mecca, minus Medina. These include Qaryat al-Fao. This is of significance. We will come to that later. This was the capital of a pagan Sabaean group, right here. You've got Hegra, Juba, Tarut, etc., etc. And yet, Makkah, the mother of all cities, is absent from this list. Yet all of these places are well attested historically. So these are all well known to exist, and these all come from a much earlier period. And yet, these are all well attested historically. So where is Mecca? Where's Medina? Why is it absent from this list? Now, Hagar is said to have walked 1,200 kilometers to Egypt to get Ishmael a wife. 1,200 kilometers, right? At least that's just from Mecca to Hebron and then back across to Egypt. And then, of course, back to get Ishmael a wife. That's a 2,400 kilometer round trip. And his sons, Isaac and Ishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre. Now, of course, the Quran also acknowledges the death of Abraham. And when Abraham died in Hebron, Ishmael walked 1,200 kilometers for the funeral and back, presumably long before this caravan route existed. There's no mention of him taking a ship, so at least not to my knowledge. Ibn Kathir tells us that Abraham often rode upon Buraq to Mecca, coming suddenly to his son and then returning back to Hebron. Allah knows best. This is highly suspicious. Why is it that we have a mention of the Buraq, but it's in connection with Abraham, not in connection with Muhammad? This is the only way that they can explain that Abraham would go to Mecca 1,200 kilometers and come back the same day. Well, it could only have been on this flying animal. Ibn Ishaq's tradition about Abraham riding on the Buraq to Mecca where he visits Ishmael is found 3 times amongst the Islamic sources. Abraham was accustomed to taking day trips to Mecca in order to check up on Hagar and his son, and on one of these visits he takes Ishmael to the sacrifice. So of course now they're plagiarizing, they're taking over this claim, usurping this claim of Isaac being sacrificed, and they're turning that into Ishmael. Now this tradition provides no connection with the pilgrimage or the building of the Kaaba, although it does connect the sacrifice firmly to Mecca. So there's this absence again of the building of the Kaaba, but yet we have this firm connection to the sacrifice because they want to take the place of Israel. Because remember, Isaac is the one in whom God's covenant established. And Abraham will establish this nation, this great nation, through the line of Isaac, not Ishmael. Now, oddly, the earliest datable mention of this creature called the Buraq is by the poet Ajaj. That's about 85 years after the death of Muhammad in 632. And Ajaj, the poet, right? This is significant. It's the writings of a poet. This Buraq is written by a poet. Poets are known for writing fiction. And Ajaj mentions this Buraq in connection with Abraham, not in connection with Muhammad. Mentions with Muhammad must then presumably come later. Now Muhammad here is pictured having a reed on Buraq, which means lightning. Al-Buraq, Buraq, a couple of names that this creature is known as within the sources, was a mule, elephant, angel, camel, woman, peacock, horse. I'll repeat that, a mule, elephant, angel, camel, woman, peacock, horse. The conveyance of Mo from Mecca to Al-Aqsa Mosque and to the skies by means of the Miraj, ladder or sulm is also stated in the narrations. So not just the Buraq, but he could have gone up by a ladder. Jacob's ladder? Oh, I don't know. In some sources, he was taken up on the wings of Gabriel. So yes, again, like most things, the Muslim scholars cannot make up their minds, but they've obviously adopted this story and made this the narrative, but the narrative is by no means clear. Most of these narrations from Mo himself state he descended from Buraq in Beit al-Maqdis, prayed in the mosque, then ascended to the skies with Gabriel. Gabriel himself, or with 2 other angels, brought Buraq on the night of Isra. When Mo mounted, the Buraq was disobedient, so Gabriel punched it in the face. I guess we know it's Islam because someone's getting hurt. Buraq will carry Mo on Judgment Day. Buraq transported other prophets as well. Ibrahim when he wanted to carry Hajar, and Ismail to Mecca. Some narration said it was his conveyance on all of his travels to Mecca. So understand, this story regarding the Buraq is all over the place. Its descriptions are conflicting, unclear. During ascent, its hands became smaller than its feet, and during descent, the feet became smaller, which keeps the person on its back straight. It is described as a huge mount with furry mane and with white skin. White skin, interesting. It is the skin with the best color amongst all the animals. Its face was similar to a human's, and it could hear and understand like a human. Interesting, this idea of white, that's rather interesting. Let's have a look at some references to the Buraq in ancient literature. So you've got here, these 5 angels, 5 lights, join the white sea like the tree of paradise. Oh, this sounds like poetry. 5 creatures sit in 5 trees, in the first white sphere, the lion, the Buraq, the white falcon, the royal phoenix, and Duldul, that's Muhammad's mule, who is the sign of godliness, sits on top of the 5 trees. I don't know how donkeys climb trees. If anyone knows how donkeys manage to climb trees, do let us know. Buraq comes from the light of Muhammad. Duldul from the light of Ali. Definitely sounds like poetry. Now, on the 5 trees of paradise, we have to look at the Gospel of Thomas and Manichaean literature. Here in this text, the legendary trees of paradise are called Tuba trees. Tuba means happiness. An eagle is perched on the tree of knowledge in paradise, according to the secret book of John. These are Gnostic and heretical Gospels. These are anti-Christian, heretical, Gnostic texts. So this is not Christian belief by any means, and Islam is taking from these ideas. In Islamic tradition, Buraq is the winged horse on which Prophet Muhammad rode on the night journey, and Duldul is Muhammad's white mule. Very interesting. And Muhammad was white. His skin was white. His shin was white. Whatever. Now, if we look here, among other Arabic names for Sirius, the star Sirius, are Al-Abur, the crosser of the galaxy, and Buraq-ish, the one of many colors. So we mentioned earlier that Buraq was the perfect color, the right color, right, the one of many colors. This reference to Jabal al-Lawth, 135 km northeast of Sana'a. And you've got the sacred perimeter of the sanctuary of Darb al-Sabi, the sanctuary of the Sabi near Barakish, a town called Barakish. Very interesting. So this town is named after the star Sirius, Barakish. So these people worship the star Sirius as well, the Sabi. And we know now that the Sabi are connected to Muhammad. We will get more into that as we go through this. But you've got these odd connections. And notice here, this is marked by boundary stones. 9 are preserved with the inscription boundary of the sanctuary, just like the Meccan Haram. So what did the Muslims borrow from this pagan religion? Perhaps Barakish, Barak. This name is appropriate for the one whose appearance is like that of lightning. See, one Enoch. Enoch again is the basis for much of the Gnostic beliefs. You get these Enochian Gnostics. And of course, Seth is connected to him. And you get the Sethi Gnosticism as well. So, and also the Qumran Book of Giants. Now we're back to Mani and the Manichaeans. Now, this is from Jewish law in Manichaean cosmogony, studies in the Book of Giants traditions. So they've got mention of Barak-el as well, appearance like lightning. So where did they steal this? Did the Muslims steal this from the Gnostics? Did they steal this from Jewish mystics who were heretical Jews? Did they steal this from the Manichaeans? One has to ask these questions. Let's continue. Rabbi Ishmael said, Metatron, angelic prince of the divine presence, who is the glory of the heavenly height, said to me, there are 7 great, beautiful, awesome, wonderful, and honored princes who are appointed over the 7 heavens, namely, amongst others, Barakiel. Okay, back to the Buraq. This Hechlot text displays a greater cosmological sophistication than the earlier Enochic literature. Again, it looks like a partial understanding or deliberate removal of just a piece of data from some other source. Let's look at the Gemara in the Talmud. We have learned in a Baraita, Rabbi Ishmael said, he said, Barak Barkai. And Rabbi Akiva said, Allah Barkai, the light has risen. It has become light even at Hebron. Hebron is where Abraham lived and died. The whole east is bright as far as Hebron. And then said Rabbi Joseph, have we to imitate Abraham? And of course, Muslims are to imitate Muhammad. Said Rabbi, the Tana learns from Abraham, why shall we not? And then of course it ends here with, Abraham rose up early in the morning. just an interesting set of connections. And you've got early Jewish mysticism, you've got these Gnostic mystics, these occultic sects, that all of them somehow have a connection to this Buraq, this light that has risen, the star Sirius. So yeah, this may well have a connection to where the idea of the Buraq has come from. And don't forget, this was all connected to Abraham in Hebron. The light has risen, Hebron. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, the light has risen. So could this be a reference to the light of Abraham? These are questions that we don't exactly have clear answers for, but these are interesting parallels and connections, and I'll pause here. Thank you.